Congratulations on your purchase of Omega Horseshoe's professional horseshoe pitching stakes. In this video, we'll describe two methods of setting your stakes permanently in your horseshoe court. The first and preferred method is using the bucket with concrete. We'll also discuss setting it with lumber. Feel free to pause the video or return to the materials or tools lists shown here as needed. It is important that you use rubber hose and not plastic. The treated lumber is used to add stability to the stake throughout its lifetime. The materials list is multiplied by 2, one for each stake in your horseshoe court. In the tools list, you will need a saw and screwdriver. Hand tools will work, but power tools will make the process a lot smoother and much quicker. Step 1. Preparing the stake. First, you will need to slide your 1-inch inside diameter rubber hose up over the eyelet at the bottom of the stake. In order to do this, you will likely need a lubricant to help move the hose over the stake. The hose acts as a shock absorber, protecting the concrete from cracking. The hose should be snug. Place the bolt through the eyelet. This keeps the stake from twisting during its lifetime, which can happen in some instances, as shown here. Additionally, rubber hose must be used, as plastic will compress over time, allowing the stake to become loose and wiggle. These problems are eliminated with our special setup process. Step 2. Preparing the bucket. Next, you'll secure the bucket to the treated lumber using the 3 screws and washers. The treated lumber attached to the bottom of the bucket stabilizes the stake during its lifetime, keeps it from moving forward or backward or side to side. The goal of our permanent setup is permanence. We want you to be able to finish this process and never have to dig and reset your stakes. Step 3. Mix the concrete. It's important that you use a 50-pound bag of concrete, not the heavier 80 or 90-pound bags, as that will produce too much concrete for this job and cause the stake to not have clearance below ground. Follow the instructions of the concrete mix you are using, adding the appropriate amount of water. We use quickset concrete in this example, but regular concrete will be just fine. Step 4. Setting the stake. A piece of scrap metal is placed in the bottom of the bucket. This is to ensure that the point of the stake does not drive through the bottom of the bucket or the wood beneath. Such an instance would be rare, but we want to be sure that it never happens. The stake is placed in the center of the bucket and concrete is added. The 50-pound bag of concrete should fill the bucket to the precise top of the 6-inch rubber hosing. You do not want to put more concrete than the height of the rubber hosing. In this example, we're setting the stake vertical, but if you would like, you may set the stake with a 3-inch forward lean from the level of the white line on the stake. The stake is secured to the bucket using tape. Placing the tape on one side and then next to and partially around the stake, then to the other side. Again, if you're using a forward lean at this point in the setup process, you'll for sure need the tape to hold the stake in its precise position. Step 5. Finishing up. Now that the concrete has dried and set, you can remove the tape and cut the top of the bucket away. When you're cutting the bucket away, you want to be sure that no plastic of the bucket is left above the level of the concrete, or when you dig your horseshoe pit in the future, your shovel may get stuck on the plastic of the bucket. In this example, we used a vertical stake setup. This means when the stake is buried, we will need to account for the 3-inch forward lean by tilting the entire stake setup forward to acquire the proper lean. The stake setup is now complete and you're prepared to bury the stake. Remember, the white line is where you want to set the level of the ground. Setting your stake in wood. The materials you will need are a railroad tie, stake, stake bracket, lag screws, and a 3/4 inch washer. It's important that the hole you drill is a 15/16 hole, which is just slightly smaller than the stake. This helps ensure that the stake is stable. Place the 3/4 inch washer in the bottom of the hole to ensure the stake point does not drive through the railroad tie. The metal bracket should be placed over the top of the stake and lag bolts driven into the 4 corners. You'll want to ensure that you have your proper 3-inch forward lean. Although setting a railroad tie appears to be a simpler method, we strongly recommend following our permanent stake setup method using concrete, ensuring a truly permanent setup, because wood, as shown here, may rot or become infested with insects over time, causing a need to eventually replace your setup. Thank you for watching our permanent stake setup tutorial. Omega Horseshoes wishes you many ringers for years to come on your new horseshoe court.